Hi, this is Celeste, and this is a breaking news um, promised update. Sorry, I got up at 2 o'clock this morning, so and I just got some shocking news, which we'll cover that on another day. But as promised, I'm just ducking in before the first of the year. I did tell you that famine was coming in 2021, that it actually started in 2019. And some of you did not believe it. And so I just wanted to show you some of what I'll be demonstrating, but just about the time that, let's see, it was about a week and a half ago when some of this military breaking news and some of the things that were going to disrupt our food supply were coming out into at least military and government circles, but not necessarily into the public purview. My chickens started doing this strange thing. So I'm going to show you. This is, I mean, I kid you not, this is the size of like a large marble, or maybe the size of my thumbnail. This is the regular size egg. And this is, I mean, it looks a lot bigger actually than it is. The camera, I mean, just like the camera adds pounds to people, the camera makes things look bigger. So, I mean, it's really hard for me to tell you just how tiny this little egg is. And I didn't just have one egg. So I've got these like mini eggs. And some people are saying, oh, those must have come from your Banties. And I do have Banties, but this particular egg did not come from a Banty hen. It came from a full-size hen. So I'm getting all these mini eggs as we approach the 2021. So now I am going to deliver at least a portion of what I promised on the disruption of our food supply. Now, if you've been following my breaking news, my dark winter, then you know that we are just being saturated with sensors, nanoparticle sensors from smart dust, hydrogel, everything that they can get into us. So let's go right now, and I'm going to share my screen. It's mostly writing, but that's more because I'm just really tired today, and I just want to make sure I don't forget anything. So it's mostly text. And then I will put this up as an article on shepherdsheart.life in my blog section. So let's go to my share screen. Uh-oh, the share screen is disabled. John, could you please enable my screen share? Okay, there we go. Okay, so so I entitled this The Food Fight. And so basically, if you go back to like right after the year 2000, there was this acronym called COOL, and it was country of origin labeling, and it promised that you would know the name of the animal, the farm, the growing conditions, if the animal was humanely raised, everything about that animal, you would know about that. And that was just introduced, and the consumer thought it was a great idea. And it really is a great idea, because really 1 pound of hamburger can have 1,000 different sources. in your 1 pound of hamburger from like 1,000 different places around the world. So it really was a good idea, but it was just a hook to get farmers and ranchers to sign up for the National Animal Identification System. They figured if COOL could be passed so easily, and it was passed by Congress, then the National Animal Identification System would be easily passed. They did not count on a strong farmer and rancher resistance. And we did fight for many years, but it did eventually pass. And now it is known as traceability, and it is mandatory in the United States as well as around the world. So as we move along, because food fraud is increasing, and supposedly it's becoming a critical issue in all areas of the complex and global food chain, we need to have certain things. And so what is the problem? The problem is that there is counterfeiting, not only of relabeling or incorrect labeling of cheap products to premium products, but also stretching products with inferior components, as well as the mixing of genetically unmodified products with GMO products. So it's really convoluted, it's really complex, and they have designed it that way so that they could get this new system that we are going to see in 2021 roll out. So what they want to do is set up a system with authenticity perimeters, such as geographical or botanical origin and chemical identity of raw plant materials that can be checked by principal means of control and freight documents, or the blockchain contractual agreement invoices, which is known as traceability by the UN mandate. So they've set up a system that is so complex and there's so much corruption that they want to get the the genetic code of every single bit of food. Of course, that's going to cost a whole lot of money. And that is why food is going to cost or be sold at 1/1000th of a calorie by the UN. And if DARPA has their way, by the molecule, because they have to verify that that product is authentic for you to eat it and consume it. And of course, you will not be allowed to eat it or consume it unless you have a genetic profile on record with the medical industrial complex. And so you basically have to submit your genome to get food. And that will be part of this whole plan. But as we move right along here, let's see, you know me and my cursor here. Can I do it? Oops. Nope, I went too far. So this method that they are establishing so far has been inadequate, the COOL, the NACE, that type of thing. So skillful criminal manipulations called food crime are happening, so they need to develop these safe analytical strategies. Well, I would propose to you that it is the state actors who are doing the skillful criminal manipulations, not really. I mean, there might be some big corporations that are, but for the most part, it is the government doing this. So there's something called high-tech method development non-targeted. So what they want to do is differentiate raw materials from different geographic origins, as well as the different biological identities. And of course, they're going to use the Philo code, that new classification of life that I've been talking about, that is first being used this year. And they are basically kind of like a biological fingerprint. and it records all relevant cellular activity. And you got to know that's not only in the food products that you're going to buy at the store if you do that, but also it's being recorded of what those food products are doing inside your body. And are you eating anything contraband? Like, are you growing those heirloom tomatoes when your genome on record says that you're not supposed to eat tomatoes? So these are the things that we are facing in 2021, which is why food is going to be so expensive. So there's some terminology that we really have to understand, and one is genomics. And basically, that is the study of all of the nucleotide sequences, including structural genes, regulatory sequences, and non coding DNA segments in the chromosomes of an organism. The study of the complete genome of an organism and the branch of genetics that studies organisms in terms of their genomes or their full DNA sequence. You also need to know the word proteomics. And basically, proteomics is a large scale study of proteins. And you're probably hearing a lot in the news about proteins and the modification of proteins. So, proteins are a vital part of living organisms with many functions. The proteome is an entire set of proteins that is produced or modified by an organism or a system. Proteomics has enabled the identification of ever-increasing numbers of proteins, and this varies with time and distinct requirements or stresses that the cell or organism undergoes, and that includes your body. And there's also a term called metabolimics. Metabolimics is a scientific study of chemical processes involving metabolites, the small molecules, substrates, immediates, and byproducts of the metabolism. Specifically, metabolimics is the systematic study of the unique chemical fingerprints that specific cellular processes leave behind, the study of their small molecule metabolite profiles. And it is particularly suitable for phenotyping, which in turn provides an indication of the geographical origin and the production method and the degree of freshness. And pay attention to this word, people, metabolimics, because I'm going to have crazy breaking news coming in a few days on this. I just have to process it through the scientific, and then I have to process it through the biblical lens to see what we're going to do about it. So there's also bioinformatics, and that is an interdisciplinary field that develops methods and software tools for understanding biological data, in particular when those data sets are too large and complex, like the system that they created. And it's an interdisciplinary field of that combines biology, computer science, information engineering, mathematics, and statistics to analyze and interpret biological data. You see, they just make these things so complex. You can't just go out to your garden and pick a carrot. You have to go through this whole process. And this is going to be required by the blockchain for you to access any food starting in 2021. And I would say pretty close to January 1st. Then there's, I don't really even know how to, isotopolomics. Isopolomics. I don't know. These words get me. And I'm one of these people that if you can't pronounce it on the label, you don't want to consume it or put it on your body. So I have a real hard time with these words, but I have to know what they are, and so do you. And so that is basically talking about high resolution elements and isotope profile analyzes, and that's this whole field. And it summarizes like ratios and rare earth elements and trace minerals in particular foods. And it is a metabolemic approach, which allows taking these deep insights into the overall composition of food products. And of course, that's all analyzed by artificial intelligence. So basically, what we've got coming on January 1st is a system called food profiling. And you can look that up and do your own research. Where did it start? It started about 250 years ago with Carl Linné, a Swedish natural scientist. And it was used for a long time until Darwin came around and did On the Origin of the Species. And Linné did this book called Systema Nature. And he was like the first food profiler. And let's see, I'm going to have to do it this way, I think. So he was the first food profiler with a direct link to the molecular profiling that we are going to see starting on January 1st. So like I mentioned, that this system changed to the Philo Code this year, 2020, to a clade system where life is determined and fit into clades of unrelated life forms. So they're going to be inundating our food supply with all these unrelated life forms. There'll be genetic modification of every kind. So the food profiling enables the determination of a whole series of properties of food, which can be divided into two main categories: intrinsic factors and I'm having a terrible time with words today. Extrinsic factors. The former can be summed up as ingredients of the food. These are the major and the minor components or sensory properties, like is it hot, is it sweet, that type of thing. Extrinsic factors, on the other hand, are mainly influenced by cultivation procedures, like how did you do it? Was it organic farming? Was it aquaculture? Did you grow it in the dirt, which is going to be a no-no because we can't take anything from nature starting in 2021. So there are also other important factors, and those are the use of pesticides and the occurrence of contaminants. Example of this was about 10 years ago, maybe a little give or take. I got my olive oil at Costco, and I did not use the really high brand, but the big bottles, because it was just going to be for soap, and never had a problem with it. Been doing it for 30 years. And one time I went to go get my like 2 gallons of olive oil to make my soap. And at the bottom, there was about a ½ inch of what looked to be rock crystals. And I thought, well, that's strange. And it wasn't the usual, like it was in a cool room and it had just coagulated. It wasn't that. These were actual, looked like rock salt crystals at the bottom of this olive oil. And so at the time, I wrote an article about it, and I had a global audience at that time. And basically, there people all over the world found these crystals in their olive oil, and none of us had an independent lab that we could send those crystals to. So we have no idea what it was, but I had never seen it before, and it's not a natural precipitate of olive oil. So it still remains a mystery of what those crystals were. So this is so I believe that olive oil had adulterants of some type in it. And these are the types of things that they want to drill down. And of course, when they drill this down to get authenticity of this food product that you are allowed to eat if you submit your genome to them, then it's you're going to pay the price here. And speaking of prices, that's next on the list. It says pricing is, after all, directly correlated to the quality definitions like size, color, and cultivation. And that is all going to be mandated by the UN and your genome. So the price, there's going to be value added, value added, value added, to the point that it is going to, you'll be paying for food at 1/1000th of a calorie or a molecule. They also wanted to take into note that their new varieties are going to be bred from existing types that can be protected and developed as trademarks. So let's say you've submitted your genome and you go to the doctor's office and you get a blood test and they find that you have one of these trademarked foods in your body, but you're not supposed to have it in your body. I mean, you can be fined. There's a matrix set up for fines and imprisonment. And actually, the fines are so cost prohibitive, you can actually lose your property if you own property in less than a week. So that's the way the whole system was set up originally. And then, of course, we're going to go down here. Food products are influenced by a vast range of factors, which are spread across the whole cycle of production, storage, shipping, and consumption. And these factors like variety, cultivation, time of harvest, country of origin, and storage are all influencing the metabolic profile of the product. And that is going to be drilled down, like you're going to know like what individual atom is doing in your food product, but that's going to cost you, and whether you can even get food is going to be problematic in the days to come. Okay, so in order to develop a robust database which can be used to categorize and differentiate food products, these influencing factors must be considered and their influence must be implemented into the profiling model. The topic of food on authenticity is therefore strongly interconnected with every step of the making of a certain food. And that's when I talk about value added, compounded, you talk about compounded interest. Now we're adding that to our food supply, value added, value added, value added, value added, value added, until you cannot really afford your food. So let me see if I can get down here without. So I'll let you take a look at that. This is going to be the cycle or the schematic that will determine food authenticity. And then restaurants will have an even greater or more difficult time because they will take these individual products and put them together and make a cake or make those tacos or whatever. So they're going to have to have all of that in this AI database. That's one reason that restaurants are probably going to be going extinct, because they're not going to be able to afford doing it. Now, the European Union has a database for origin and registration, much like the cool country of origin labeling, but it's drilled down deeper because country of origin labeling was very old and they didn't have this system in. It currently has like 1,500 products and it has a label, and there's the labels right there. Maybe I can make them bigger. Let's see if I can make it bigger here. Can I? No, I can get you. Come on, little guys. So there you can see them. Now, every area of the world has different beta tests that they're doing. And that way it keeps researchers off guard. And we don't always see these things. And so it's easy to fall through the cracks. So once again, this is supposedly supposed to fight against food fraud and to prevent adulteration, substitution, tampering, counterfeiting of food. And that is supposedly one of the most pressing reasons for development of food profiling methods. So the European Union does not provide a harmonized definition for food fraud, but of course the Codex Alimentarius does. And so they're going to go along with the Codex Alimentarius. There's also fraudulent practices, and pretty soon organic farming, backyard farming is going to be a fraudulent practice, and anything that you consume from your gardens is going to be illegal. That's one reason I've really encouraged you to explore the option or the concept of indoor gardens. So of course, how are you? I mean, they're talking about like corporations or people doing this adulteration, substitution, tampering, and counterfeiting. But what happens when your very government is doing it or paying farmers to do it or ranchers to do it? And it's at the molecular level. How in the world are you going to know at the molecular or the atomic level if something that you buy at the store has been tampered with? Is it really a red, as in a tomato, or is it some type of, I was looking at the dyes yesterday. It's a country, Sudan red. Is it really just a Sudan red? And apparently Sudan red has health complications associated with it. But at the atomic level, you're never going to know that. So look at this. I love this. I love this. A cooperative approach based on trust. But here you've got the judiciary, you've got police and customs, you've got the investigative legal powers, intelligence, member states, of course, enforcement, and the administrative and all your inspectors in this triangle. And so, and then of course, AI is going to be in this. So, but we're supposed to trust that system. We're supposed to have blind trust in this system. So this food profiling goes down, like I said, it looks at the genome of the plants or the animals down to the nuclear, the mitochondrial or plastidic DNA to generate these profiles. So proteins are looked at, peptides are looked at, and then we've talked about the different categories. So this is what food profiling looks like and who does it. And there's going to be a whole bureaucracy that's been established, the underlings of artificial intelligence. There's going to be food safety labs, producers, sellers, everybody's going to be in the mix. And we're, this requiring us to submit our DNA is going to be the standard operating procedure. Standard operating procedure, you have to give blood, whether it's once a week, once a month, to ensure that you are not participating in and doing things that you're not supposed to be doing, or consuming things that you're not supposed to be consuming, according to the medical uh, professionals. But that's actually going to be just artificial intelligence, because in 2021, the World Economic Forum already said they were going to be getting rid of doctors. So there's also a multi-reaction monitoring that is going to check for, these are some of the positives, for pesticides, mycotoxins, antibiotics, and other types of things. They're going to use some type of a trace analysis, and it gives the ISO for that. And then it's also going to have, not only is food authenticity going to be looked at, but where has the product come from? Has something been added to the product? What variety is it? Like red lettuce may be acceptable one year, but green lettuce is out, something like that. Is it the best date, the expiration date that will be given to the product by artificial intelligence based on this molecular examination? Like I said, these are metabolic fingerprints of the product, and we have all these sensors already inside of our bodies that are going to be telling everyone if we're consuming, and what happens when we eat a atomic red carrot or something like that. And this is kind of what it will look like, the metabolic food profiling workflow. There's going to be the sample extraction. Now you got to know every single food product, and it's not, you can't just pick a batch of carrots. So it might drill down to like each individual carrot, or each individual radish, or each individual animal. And then there's an analysis, there's data mining, that's for the artificial intelligence. There's the processing of the data, and then there's identifying it. And you will not be allowed to eat this food until it's identified and authenticated. And so this, they're starting to say your papers, please, for medical things that we all know about. And it's basically the same thing. They want everything identified and validated, and whether it's authentic or not. And then there's also going to be hormone analysis. So they're going to sell it to you because it's in your best interest always, because you don't want counterfeit foodstuffs or so-called food fraud. Well, what happens when they say that steak is illegal? It's a counterfeit. You're not allowed to have it. And so you're not, I don't know how you could participate in this system and not pay super high fines that I saw like from 2005 on. So then there's going to be wars, organic versus conventional, non-genetically modified versus genetically modified. And I find this interesting. They use the word omnipresent. I mean, that's like godlike. And of course, that's what they want to do. And they say that, of course, you're going to, then you won't get like syrup that has been diluted or something like that. But the truth of the matter is at the molecular level and the sophistication, it can be diluted. It's going to be totally synthetic, because the word is out around the world that you cannot take anything from nature. So the thing is going to be 100% synthetic. It's just, what is it going to do with you, to your body? And I found this interesting. how crop failures due to extreme weather conditions, ingenuity in food fraud knows no bounds. And basically, there were hazelnut shoots that had died off in Turkey, and what they they substituted some other nuts, including peanuts. And if you know anything about peanuts, some people have a huge peanut allergy. So once again, they are, they're trying to get you to buy in that you're going to be able to identify impurities, illegal additives, allergens. Um, you're going to be able to know if that egg really is organic, that your vegetables are organic and your fruits are organic. But the problem is nothing is going to be organic. It is, like I said, the mandate from the United Nations is by in 2021 that everything must be completely synthetic. And with the degree of genetic modification um, to humans in the next 6 months, it it might not be a crime against humanity if you are feeding a GMO to a GMO. That's that digital twin that I was talking about in my dark winter presentation. Of course, like I said, they're going to look at pesticides, herbicides, and insecticides and other residue like insects in your food. But whether you're really going to get information that you want, I don't think that you are. And I'm not going to go into all of these. Like I said, I'm going to put this up as an article on shepherdsheart.life, and you can look. It's got about the mycotoxins, personalized nutrition. Now, remember, that system is a weaponized system, and it's a legal autonomous weapon system that is very legal and very deadly. I talked about that in the dark winter. Is it genuine or counterfeit? I mean, it's going to be AI that determines whether it's genuine or counterfeit, and you're going to have to tote the line if you're going to be part of the blockchain access to food starting on January 1st. And so then they talk about food analytics. So the future is powerful and it's secure. I would say that it's not. It has this software Analytica 2020. And I did put in, let's see, the link to this article, and also the UN document where it says food will be sold by the 1/1000th of a calorie, and the DARPA Living Boundaries, which was talking about selling food by the molecule. So I hope that you are really considering about now that it would be a good idea to grow your own food, because it is in your face now. You only have a few days left to be thinking about this. Now is the perfect time to be ordering your seeds and doing those learning curve projects. You don't snap your fingers and have instant success. You might have some beginner's luck, but growing in the environmental conditions that we have these days is not an easy task. Farmers were always had kind of a heavy load to carry, but now there's these unconventional predators that are just going to gnaw away at our food supply. So I hope you found this informative, and I will keep you posted as the food fight continues.